So I currently work at a Big Four firm. I work at Deloitte as an external assistant audit manager, and through that role, I've now become ACA qualified. I'm literally just waiting for the certificate to come through the door, but I'm almost there. And then it's just a bit of a weird one, but I guess you can call me a blogger. I still think it's a weird thing to say, I don't know why, but I do have a blog, so jagsjourney.blog, and I have also recently published this book. So it's like an accounting for beginners book. Appreciate not everyone will be interested in it, but if it's something you want to look at later on, then that's fine. And a bit of background about myself. So I studied economics and maths at the University of Leeds, and then I did that placement year as well. So the way that I'm going to structure the presentation is you can see a timeline up here. So essentially it's just the middle-ish of uni up to where I am now. I'll then also touch on the blog and the book, and then at the end there'll be the opportunity to ask any questions if you have any. So I'll start off with the Teach Fast Insight program. So if you're unfamiliar with this, what it was is a 2-week paid internship program. So this was during my second year of uni. And essentially people just came into my uni, gave a talk, told me about Teach First. And me personally, I've always been interested in teaching. So since a young age, I have tutored maths. So when I was 16, I started tutoring a GCSE student in maths. And I realised I was actually quite good at it. So I got her in 8 weeks from a C to an A. And so that was really something that I was quite proud of, and I've continued to kind of do and keep that teaching side to me. So that's why I applied for the Insight program. If I'm honest, I can't really remember the application process that much, but I was successful and I did get it. And what it essentially involved was a 2-week program. So the first week was just in London, lots of training, just meeting people, things like that. And the second week was a week of actually going to a secondary school in Peterborough. And though we didn't really teach, we did shadow and just find out a bit more about what teaching will be like. And we just got involved with like a school trip and just making sure the kids didn't like run off or anything. So that was pretty much it. So something that I'll say throughout this whole presentation is that it is very important to network. So I will be honest, so the people in the picture I've probably never really spoken to again, but I do have them on some forms of social media or something, and you just do never really know when you might need to speak, you might connect future on, well, later down the line. And something else that I'll bang on throughout this whole presentation is transferable skills. So anything you do, there'll be some sort of skill that you'll pick up that you can use elsewhere or later on, and it's something that's important to really get across, like when you apply for jobs, for example, and other roles, you can just pick out things from other things that you've done, whether it's getting involved with societies or just events like this, networking, communication skill. It is just really important to just try and get out there and do those things. So if you are in like your first year, I would strongly encourage just trying to see if there's any kind of insight programs or anything where you can just go out and network and just really build relationships and try and develop your skills. So following that 2-week scheme, that July just after, I did do the IBM Industrial. The whole year I I worked in London, South Bank office, and my role was a business analyst for the retail and travel and transport industries. So quite a mouthful to say, it's quite long during that whole year, but got through it. And I'll be honest, again, it was a massive adjustment from uni. When I first got in there, I think I didn't really take it as seriously as I probably should have. And in the first few weeks, a manager did actually pull me to the side and they had a conversation, and they did say, like, look, people have noticed that you're a bit slouched and you're not that engaged, and you're not really, giving the right attitude that you should. And I think from there, I kind of realised, like, I'm not in uni anymore. I do need to actually adapt to this corporate environment And from there, I decided I need to make the most of the opportunity and do everything that I can to do really well in this year. So I think from that, I started doing extra things like writing blogs on the side. So these are just news articles relating to retail and travel and transport industries, but I would then try and make it relevant to my role. And I would just try and add value and do those extra kind of things that they just seem like you're really interested and just want to do more. And I got involved with lots of different projects, and I did in the end actually have a really good year. So other things during that year, I started going to the gym, which I love. So ever since my placement year, I've been going 5 days a week. And during the year, I also travelled. So with that placement money, I did go on like 7 holidays and just really made the most of it. And that was really fun. So again, about networking. So this was honestly a great opportunity then to meet graduates who were already there. And that's why doing things like placements, insight days, it gives you the chance to find out more about what else you can do. So although I was a business analyst, I spoke to graduates who were there, and I spoke to some who were consultants for me, because you're on these long projects, you can be away from home in business parks and things like that, and it can be quite remote, and that I didn't really want to do that at the time. So then I also spoke to graduates who were actually in software sales, and that to me sounded quite exciting. I thought it was something that I could potentially be quite good at. And so from then I did actually apply to do software sales as a graduate. So pretty obvious, like I didn't get it, but I'll talk you kind of through what happened. So there's a graduate scheme fast track opportunity. So after the placement year, and what some of you will find if you are doing placements and things like that, is you will get the opportunity to then be put forward to go for a graduate role. And that's more of a internal process than rather having to apply externally again. And the way that it worked is you had to do a final year presentation, and if you did well, you would get fast tracked. If you didn't do as well, you'd have to go through an assessment centre and then a final interview. So for me, I actually did turn things around and I got put straight through to that final interview. So this was something I was really pleased with, because it just goes to show that my hard work did pay off. But what actually ended up happening is, even though you get essentially fast tracked, you're pretty much guaranteed a final interview. But I literally just didn't get one, and it happened to many others as well. And so during my final year of uni, a month before like my June exams, we all got an email saying, oh, unfortunately, there were less places than we thought, and all the positions have been filled. So obviously, I didn't really know what to do at this point, because I assumed that it was pretty much guaranteed because I had been fast tracked, but it just wasn't. So I was then trying to figure out what to do. Obviously, I just thought I'll get on with my exams, figure it out after. And then I did apply to like a random consulting role. Didn't end up getting it. So I think I realised when doing this like presentation is that I've actually been rejected quite a bit. And it has just led me to where I am today. So it's not something that I kind of dwell on or ever really get upset about. And I would strongly encourage you to just apply for the things that you think you might be interested, talk to people and reach out, and you'll find out whether it is or isn't meant to be for you. So then, like I said, I didn't really know what to do. And I spoke to one of my friends, and she said that her cousin, something similar had happened to her as well. So instead of actually going into, say, a year of retail or trying to just get a part-time job or any type of job on the side, her cousin went into teaching. And then I actually thought about it and thought, actually, it's a really good chance for me to see if I would like teaching. And I literally just did a quick search online, probably like Indeed or Target Jobs or something. No, not Target Jobs, probably just like Indeed or one of them local websites where you can find jobs. And through that, I found this Ark Boulton Academy. So it was this secondary school teaching assistant role. So the reason I got assistant in these quotes is because I really was not an assistant teacher. On the first day, I was given a year 8 class, 2 year 7s, think year 10 class and year 11, and I was also sharing the form. So I was essentially a full-blown teacher, but just not getting paid for it. But honestly, I just really appreciate the opportunity, because I would never have known otherwise what it would be like to actually teach. And so I went in there, just did what I could. Teaching, if I'm honest, it is a very hard job. So no day is the same. You don't really know what to expect when you go in. You don't know what behavioural issues you're going to have on the day, whether glue sticks are going to get thrown or everyone listens to you that day. And I found that, so I'm not sure if you can read it, but that's one of the letters that one of the students wrote to me when I left. And she did mention that I was one of the safest teachers in the school. That's not always a good way to be as a teacher, because some days I think, oh, miss, come on, just let me off. And it just is better to just have a persona that is completely different to what you're actually like. But I did think it was just a great experience. But even though I was still teaching, and it was teaching the same kind of GCSE topics over and over, I realised that I did still want to learn. And so my dad, he actually said to me, have you ever thought about the ACA? And it's really weird, because when I was younger, I had said that I wanted to do accounting. And he said, no, your personality needs to be like more out there doing something else, like talking to people. So I completely forgot about it. And then all these years later, he said, have you thought about doing accounting, pretty much? And I was like, you told me not to do it, well, I'm going to do it. And then I started looking into it again. And then I actually came across the ACA and thought it would just be something that's really good. It's got so many different topics and things that are taught in there. And you can pretty much go into lots of different finance careers after. So then that is when I started doing some research, and I came across the Audit graduate scheme. So I didn't really know anything about audit when I was applying, to be honest. Research as I went along. I just knew that you could get the ACA through it, and that's what I thought would be a really good qualification to get. So I applied to all the big fours, applied to NAO, BDO, all the others as well. And to be honest, I actually did pretty well. So with these applications, I was finding that I was going a lot further than some of the other ones in, say, consulting, that maybe at the time were more competitive. I think I also did take the time to just really tailor my applications and make sure it seemed like I really understood what I was applying for, even if sometimes I didn't. So I would say that is a massive tip, to just make sure that you really do your research and tailor all your applications. Don't just give a generic response to each of them. Just make sure you add in that bit about why that firm stands out to you. And it can just be connecting their values to yours, and just simple little searches like, oh, you've got this award, that's really impressive. I like this because, you know, if it's like a woman in, I don't know, 50 top women or something, you can say that's really important to me. And likewise, for the guys, you can find something else that fits you. So on my blog, I do have a actual article about how to pass an interview with flying colours or something. And I think that's one to check out if you do want any interview help. But yeah, I went through the application process. I had done really well in the PwC assessment centre. They turned around and were like, we have little criticism, which was actually really impressive. But then their final interview I actually didn't get. So I had Deloitte and PwC the same week. And PwC rejected me and Deloitte said yes. So I got through to one in the end. But also, if you have any questions at the end, I'll be happy to touch a bit more on assessment centres and any tips there as well. But it's up to you if you want me to talk about that or not. So in terms of then audit, so I started in September 2018 and I was part of a graduate cohort. So there were roughly 20 of us who were graduates, and then there were the bright starts, which are those who have just left from school. So they've done their A-levels and then they come straight in. So as I've mentioned a fair bit already, there is the ACA qualification. So what you'll find during the graduate scheme, it's a 3-year scheme for the graduates. For bright starts, it's 4, but you will be working and studying. So this is where you might hear as well people saying, oh, if you go to the big 4, you won't really have a life, there's so much that you need to do, etc. But I personally don't think it's as bad as that, and I can share tips later on about how to balance it all. But in the first 3 months of starting, I did the first 6 exams, and then 3 months after, I'd completed 3 more, which were the professional level, which were a lot bigger, and there was much more content. And then within that first year, I had done 12 exams, so it was pretty intense. But then it was quite nice because then you could actually start focusing on the work and just get to know more about the role itself. And then within that second year, I completed the final 3, and then I did pass all the exams. So on the next slide, I'll mention that it's not just exams to get ACA qualified, but that is a lot of where your time will go when you're working and studying. And then in terms of audit itself, so does anyone actually know? So probably you probably know because you're going to do it. But does anybody else know? Or what do you think it is? Yeah. Okay. No, well, that's not bad, to be fair. I think I told the taxi driver something once and he thought it was something to do with ears. So that's quite good. So yeah, basically itself. So you'll go into a company, they'll hire you as the auditors, and what you essentially do is you check if their accounts are materially true or fair. So what that means essentially is a company could just say, oh, we're making all this profit and we've barely had any costs or anything, we're doing so well. And then they'd get lots of investors, etc. They'd be given this false information. But auditors pretty much sign off their accounts and say whether they think that they are true and fair. So day to day, it'll involve, well, it depends. So your audit is split into 3 categories. So you'll have the planning visit, the interim visit, and the year-end visit. So the planning is where you essentially do all the risk assessment, you find out what has happened in the year, and you basically just figure out how you're going to go and conduct that audit, where you need to focus your attention, what needs testing more, what doesn't need as much attention. And then the interim visit is when you can actually start doing some of that testing ahead of the year end. So for example, I'm not sure how much you know already about accounting, but you'll have the basic primary financial statement. So you'll have the statement of profit and loss, and that's for how the company has performed. Generally, it's usually a 12-month period. So it's how they've done it in the 12 months. And so during interim, if you're going in at, say, month 6, you can test those costs. So you can test how much revenue they say that they've got, and you'll check it down to invoices and make sure that the money's coming into the bank. So you do actually do a lot of the digging into the finances as well. You can also then, on the balance sheet side, which is at a point in time, so you can't really do much testing because it's based at that year end, but you can, say, test any additions that they've had, such as if they've brought like a chair, for example, and they've listed it on their register, you can check that they've done that. And then the year end is literally that busy period when you and test everything. So you might be wondering if there's 3 times of the year, how you kind of run throughout the whole year. But the way that it works is you have different clients and their year ends will fall during different periods, most likely. So, for example, I've got a FTSE 100 company, their year end is 31st of December. Then I've got a NHS Trust, and theirs is the end of March, 31st of March. And then there's councils, which are 31st of July. And you kind of get different ones. So it does just work. And then the ones that are really busy are the ones where they've got really short deadlines. So those are the ones where you're literally, that's where you hear the horror stories, to be honest, about the big 4, where perhaps like you're working really late hours into like the morning or something because you really need to get it all done. But generally across the year, it does depend on what the team's like, how many staff you have booked, and in terms of that deadline, whether it's tight or not. It really does determine how your year looks and how busy you are. So the standard hours are 9 till 5:30, but sometimes it can be later and sometimes you'll finish at 5:30 on the dot. So it does really vary. And then those are the restricted periods as well, where you usually can't really take holiday. But if you tell them, so Deloitte, for example, if you tell them really far in advance, then you can get that time off. So they can be quite understanding about it. So then the other thing that I've really liked about audit and why I wanted to apply is there's clear progression. So you'll start as an associate, and every year there's this annual promotion opportunity. So you just do progress through the ranks. So I'm currently an assistant manager. There's 3 years of assistant manager, and then you'll get to manager and then senior manager, director, partner, for example. But it's just nice to kind of see where you could actually go. But if I give an honest review, so it hasn't always been easy. I think you do hear really mixed reviews, but I think how your graduate scheme goes or how it goes, it depends on how you deal with it. So whether you do things to make it easier, for example, something that really helped me with doing working and studying was actually taking annual leave to study. So now you think like, oh, when do you actually get your leave? But I think things like that are important because it allows you then to get that balance where you don't have to revise and study every evening after work, cram on your weekends, and then just have no time. So I think you can just do steps and things to make it easier for yourself. But again, like I said, the ACA, it is that stepping stone into lots of different financial roles. So I think now I constantly get recruiters constantly messaging me on LinkedIn asking if I'd be interested in this one. So it's just something that's really good to have under your belt. It does differ to the ACCA, so I'm not really sure if you've heard of that one either. Or you might know more than me on that because I don't know much about the ACCA. But the ACA is equivalent to a master's. And like I said, it has the 15 exams, but then it also has these different pillars as well. So, for example, you need to do your ethics and you need to show that you've met all these different skills and behaviours and things. But then the main other bit is the practical work experience. So you need to get 450 working days in some sort of role. So the ones that I've listed are the ones that they say on their website. So it'll be accounting, audit and assurance, which I'm in, tax, financial management, insolvency, and information technology. And I don't really know too much about the others. Of course, accounting is when you're actually putting the accounts together, and audit is what I do. And then, yeah, the others, to be honest, I don't know too much about it. But another one that I have put there is transaction services. So again, I got rejected. This year I applied for a secondment in my firm, and it is for TS. And essentially what they do is if there's going to be this big merger or acquisition where a company is going to buy another one, for example, they would just do financial due diligence to just make sure there's no deal breakers. So if they're working for the company that's going to buy the other one, they'll find out whether they're paying too much for it or whether there's something they should be aware of and they shouldn't do it in the end or something like that. So that's what transaction services is, and that also falls as part of that practical work experience. So 450 days sounds like a lot, but over a 3-year grad scheme, you do end up meeting it quite quickly. So I met it in April, just before that September, where it would have been my 3 years. So I think you'll be fine. And then I went through this level 7 apprenticeship route, and that is more common now with employers, especially the Big Four. And all it means is you just have to do that little bit more to prove why you should be qualified. So you just need to do a training log and just fill out a project report and things like that. But yeah, so if I then touch on my journey, so what I've done so far, and this is all pretty much in the past year. So I have blogged every week for a whole year, so 53 blogs now. So this is actually my first Thursday off because I blog every Thursday. So I'm trying to focus on doing different things now as well. So I'll drop it down to fortnightly. But if you are interested in doing a blog or a website, I've literally put a whole blog and PDF together on how. And then there's on there and lots of different things that I did want to share. So it is mainly for ACA students. So I've given a lot of exam tips and tricks and ways to pass, because I did do a lot of studying, if I'm honest. So I've tried to kind of pass that on. And then other experiences. So last year I got laser eye surgery and I've got Invisalign. I don't know if you can tell. So yeah, I've basically just kind of gone through, shared my experiences, things that I think might be able to help other people. So that's what I'm trying to do with the blog. And then in the past year, this is actually pretty cool. So Google Analytics shows that in the past year, I've reached all these countries across the world. So I think Africa, I'm a bit lacking. Also, I had to Google, but that's Greenland. I think I'm really bad at geography. So lacking in some areas, but I've managed to talk to loads of different students and help them. And it is just something that I'm quite proud of. So I guess this is a slide to just boast about myself, but yeah. And then moving on. So this is the book. So the book's here if you want to see it later. But it is just an accounting for beginners book. So if you're interested in the ACA, ACCA, or accounting or anything, you can read that. Even if you have Kindle edition on Amazon, then you can literally read it for free. So it's up to you. But I just thought I'd share it in case anyone is interested. So like I said, the impression people do have is that you can't have a life if you work at a big four firm and you can't really get on and do other things. And it's similar, not even just the big four, but other kind of roles as well, even if you're like in a law firm or something else. But I guess what I call the secret behind it and what I found really works is just setting goals. So if I hadn't set a goal to have the book done by August, I probably wouldn't have had it done by August. I also set goals for myself to post a blog every Thursday, and I at least wanted to do that for the year. And I think the main thing is just holding yourself accountable to things. So I just knew that I couldn't really justify it to myself if I didn't do it after setting that goal. And yeah, I think just planning is so important as well. I think as long as you plan your time effectively and you do just set your goals, I think you should be okay. So then what I wanted to do is then bring it back to my university experience. So hopefully it can relate to you a bit more, because some of this is like years away from where you currently are, as you're much younger than me now. So at uni, I got involved with societies. So I was the treasurer on the Bangor Society, interfaith rep for the Sikh Society. Another rejection, so I got rejected from the Trading and Investment Society to be on that committee. So some of you are actually doing better than me already. And then, yeah, I think I just got involved. I went to careers fairs and I did do insight days, but to be honest, I guess I haven't really got that much from it. But one of my uni friends, so she currently works at Accenture. And I thought what was really good about what she did is she just reached out to someone on LinkedIn and she mentioned to them that she'd be interested in finding out more about what they did, and just asked if she could go for a coffee. And literally from her just reaching out, they did actually then meet, and she did get a way to get into that role. And now she worked in Accenture in HR, and then now she's moved into consulting. So I think that is what I really find out about networking, because you just don't know what a conversation or just asking the question, you don't know where it will lead you. So I also did reach out volunteers. So I went to South Africa for 2 weeks. That was really fun, really good experience. And then I mentioned there about skin struggles. So during my final year, I had a really tough time with my skin. So this was due to whey protein and dairy, so it was all gym related. But I've also shared that on my blog. If you do have any sort of eczema issues, it might be able to shed some light into what could cause it. And then I did some traveling, and I was also an events promoter during uni, just handing out leaflets in my first year. And then, yes, I think bottom line, day to day, I don't know if I should, I didn't go to every lecture. I did try, I would catch up and things like that, but I didn't take it. I don't know what I should say, because I don't want to give you I don't want to give any bad advice, but I would just say, kind of take every day as it comes, and just really, I think sometimes just chill out a bit. Like, you don't need to put so much pressure on yourself now, and you don't know where you could end up. I had so many rejections, and I wasn't always the best. I think for my final year dissertation, my maths project, ended up doing an all-nighter and things like that. I think I just knew what was important, so just knowing that I need to do well in the exam. So in the end, I did get that 2-1. So I was aiming for a first, but I don't think I've ever really thought about it since that I haven't got it. But it is just personal preference. I personally do just think, of course, if you're doing grad schemes, they do ask for a 2-1, so you do need to aim for that at least. But it just really depends what your aspirations are. So in terms of advice, like I've always said throughout, I would say network. If you haven't got a LinkedIn profile, I'd really recommend getting one and just make sure you just put things on there and just reach out to people. You don't know where it could lead you to. So I've put my name on there as well. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you want. If you ever have any questions, you can just reach out. I really don't mind. And then the main message is just literally get that balance, do the things that you enjoy, just socialize, have fun, but still do what is important and still make sure that you do try and strive for that 2-1. And then the last bit is literally just breathe. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I've just left it open to any questions if you have any. If not, thank you for your time. Yeah.
I was wondering, are you looking to transition into any other aspects of finance, or is it?
See, I think even I'm quite confused at the moment, to be honest. So as an assistant manager currently in audit, I think a lot of people around me have left, and I've seen the opportunity potentially for a double promotion. So I'm kind of striving towards that. So hopefully I can get manager come this September, but there's a lot of rules about that and whether it is or isn't possible. So I have kind of I've always thought about the idea of moving into industry, so maybe into an actual finance role like management accountant or something like that. But I'm honestly not sure. I'm kind of just taking every day as it comes. If I'm having a really bad time, a really bad month, then I might consider looking elsewhere. But I think for the moment, I know that I want to strive for that double promotion. So that's what's kind of keeping me in audit at the moment. Anything else? Okay, so the way it works is you will get given your timetable. So when you start, they'll tell you when you'll get college dates. So it depends who your tuition provider is, but normally you will get a technical knowledge phase, an application phase, and an exam prep stage. And the exam prep's usually 2 weeks for those big exams. And the way that I would plan it is those 2 weeks just before that exam prep phase, I would just book it off. So it's just a standard annual leave policy as per your firm. So if it is during a busy season, though, they can restrict you to only 3 days holiday rather than like say a week or 2 weeks. But you'll get the timetable and it'll make more sense once you start. Is that okay? Then what did you say at the start? Sorry, did you say that you wanted?
Yeah, at the moment I'm going through the application process for the vacation schemes.
Yeah.
Intact.
Okay, intact. So how far have you got with the?
I did a job simulation today with EY.
Yeah.
I'm yet to start my KPMG one, and I've done both the online assessments with Deloitte and waiting to hear back if I got through to the next round.
Okay. No, it sounds like you're progressing then and doing well. But yeah, just drop me a message if you have any questions or need any advice on Deloitte, or yeah, I don't really know much about tax. I do know people in tax though, so if you want me to introduce you to anyone, I can do that. That's fine. Is that it?
I've kind of got two questions.
Go on.
Genuinely, is the IBM building nice on the inside? Because I walked past it, there's sort of like a big concrete.
The one in London.
Yeah,
it's not very nice. It's a lot nicer inside. Yeah, it's a bit more modern than this as well, to be fair. So it's quite nice inside. Just depends where you go in the building. Yeah. Oh yeah, I did actually. That's a good question. So I did want to say that. So I'm economics and maths. And even that, I literally avoided accounting modules. I did none in uni. I was told it was hard, so I just didn't do it. And other people who I work alongside, so one of the graduates who started with me, he did Russian and German, so completely unrelated. As somebody in the year above who is probably one of the best auditors that I've worked with, he did an English degree. So it really doesn't matter. So some of these graduate roles, they teach you everything on the job, and they don't expect you to know anything beforehand anyway. So some of them, they are completely fine with you having no relevant accounting experience, for example. Yeah.
So what about, you were talking earlier about transferable skills.
Yeah.
What are the transferable skills that you've had from your previous experiences that you use in your current role?
Okay, so leadership's a big one. So from teaching, I'd definitely say leadership, because in audit, as you progress, so when you first start in the role, you're initially just doing the work and you're doing the testing. But as you progress, your role continues to change and evolve. So then you get involved with the more higher risk areas, the areas where it needs more judgment. But then you also actually start training the juniors and coaching them. So a lot of teaching is actually required in the job as well. So I would definitely say leadership, a lot of communicating with the client, sending them emails, meeting with them, having meetings face to face. There's a lot of that. So definitely communication skills, and even organisation skills. So as a teacher, you of course need to really plan all your lessons and get things sorted beforehand. And as an auditor, as you progress as well, because you'll have quite a few jobs on at the same time, you do need to be really organised and stay on top of what's happening and when. So yeah, like I said, with transferable skills, anything you do, I think you can make it relevant to your applications. And I think it's so important to just make sure you touch on different things. So you want to kind of avoid just talking about constantly the same thing that you've done over and over again. So I haven't always spoke about just teaching when I've done the application. So I'll speak about maybe specific roles and things that I did in IBM, or touch on, say, societies at uni or anything like that. So I think just try and touch on lots of different things, but I think there's always something that you can pull out of one experience and present it to, say, an employer and say, yeah, I can show that I've done this here. So it really helps in like competency interviews and things like that.
Great.
Yeah.
With the like application process, like a lot of the questions that I'm getting at the moment,
yeah,
is sort of, so say for example, like my job simulation today, I did one like a simulation of EY today.
Yeah.
And there was an example where someone in my team, they got the numbers wrong, but then I'd like gone on and analysed it. So it was like, it was whose fault, but sort of, it was like the team's fault. And the impression that I think is better to give,
yeah,
is to be more of a team player and more of a friendly person.
Yeah.
Like a ruthless part of my friend,
Yeah.
like a ruthless bitch.
yeah,
And but then in some of my feedback, I'll have like, you know, they give you those generic things,
Yeah.
like break down your skills. Like
Yeah.
the bottom one sort of seems to be, and the word they haven't used is leadership, but it's essentially like taking charge. Like my
Right.
to get your team. I was just wondering, do you think that's the right approach to take?
I think it is the right approach. I think it depends what job you're applying for as well. But audit's a very team job. I think even in tax, you probably have to work with other people. So I always kind of go for that approach as well. I don't try and, you know, I would never turn around in one of these simulations and like tell them that they're wrong and, you know, like embarrass them in front of everyone. I think they want someone who would kind of do the right thing. I think you always need to think ethically when you answer, and always just still try and be that kind of team player that they would want in their team, because they're not really going to want to hire someone who will be quite difficult. So I think, yeah, that's how I would answer them. So I think you're doing the right thing.
And then and this is a bit of a personal question, but
Yeah.
you've got quite a Brummy accent.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends, my friends are all from like Liverpool and Manchester, so we've all got relatively strong accents.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of discussion about, I know there's a law lecturer and she wasn't allowed to speak to clients because her Scouse accent was that strong. And have you ever found that having a quote unquote northern accent has held you back in these sort of environments?
I don't think so at all, to be honest. I can't say so. And even any of my colleagues or anything, I've never heard of that happening, so I'm actually quite surprised that happened, but I don't think it should or would ever be an issue, especially in like a tax role, for example. So I think it should be okay. And your accent's fine, so yeah.
And do you mind explaining again the difference between accounting?
Yeah, so audit, what you do is you don't actually put the accounts together yourself. So you'll go into a company and they'll have already got their accounts prepared. So the person that will put it kind of together is more of the accountant role, where they actually work in the company and produce them. Whereas as auditors, you can go into lots of different companies. So an accountant would just be at one firm and they would just work for them, unless, you know, they're independent and do accounts for lots of different people. But accountants put it all together. Auditors essentially check that it seems like what they've done is true and fair. Well, it's tricky because as an auditor, you need to understand the accounts as well. So you still need kind of the same skills. So you need to understand the accounting standards. I don't really think either are too mathsy, to be honest. So I've got quite a strong maths background, but I think the most mathsy it gets is like percentage change and things like that. It's not actually that mathsy. It's just more understanding